And well, breaking news coming in is that Jordan's military said it intercepted drones and missiles that had violated the kingdom's airspace on Friday after Iran vowed that there would be no limits in its response to Israeli attacks. Jordan's military said that the Royal Air Force aircraft and air defense systems intercepted on Friday morning a number of missiles and drones that entered Jordanian airspace. This is, of course, after Iran vowed that it will respond to Israel's preemptive strikes on Iran's nuclear sites and also on its scientists. And that's the news coming in that Jordan's military has said that it has intercepted drones and missiles that had violated the kingdom's airspace on Friday, after Iran vowed that there would be no limits in its response, after Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei also said that Israel must be prepared for a severe retaliation to Israel's preemptive strikes on Iran earlier this morning. In other breaking news that we're also getting is that sirens have sounded in Amman, Jordan, prompting the government to urge citizens to stay indoors as a precautionary measure. The alert comes amid heightened tensions in the region following Israeli attacks on Iran. Authorities have advised people to prioritize their safety and follow instructions from local officials. This, of course, comes after Israel launched preemptive strikes on Iran, aiming at Iran's nuclear sites. The question now is, how will this impact the volatile West Asia region, with Jordan on alert amid tensions in West Asia, especially after Iran vowing that Israel should be prepared for a massive response to its preemptive strikes on Iranian nuclear sites and also on Iranian scientists. Right, that's the news coming in that Jordan is on a high alert amid tensions in West Asia. This, of course, tensions soared between Iran and Israel after Israel launched preemptive strikes on Iran earlier this morning. Jordanian government has issued caution to its citizens, and they have asked Jordanians not to get out of their house as a precautionary measure. Authorities are urging residents to stay indoors and not to move out as tensions between Iran and Israel escalate. This, of course, after Iran has also now launched drones at Israel, which, according to the Israeli officials, have been intercepted, but some of them, which are en route Israel, will likely reach Israel in an hour or two. Right, and to talk more on the current situation in Iran, we are now being joined by Yusuf Jalili, journalist from Tehran. Welcome to WION, Mr. Jalili. First up, of course, what is the on-ground situation like in Iran as of now? Because what we do know is that Israel has said that it targeted nuclear program and other senior military leaders in Iran. But on ground, what is the reality right now?
Well, of course, the mood in Iran actually screams war. Hours after the launching of that attack against Iran by Israel, the country struck back actually with around 100 drones being launched from Iranian soil targeting Israel. Of course, we're not sure whether or not those drones have reached the Israeli soil and Israeli territories or not, or whether or not they have been intercepted. But this seems to be the first phase of a major strike, counter-strike, we should call it, against Israel on the part of the Islamic Republic. Of course, we've been hearing unconfirmed reports suggesting that Iran is preparing its launchers. Iran is preparing its launchers to launch and, of course, launch hundreds, if not thousands, of ballistic missiles against Israel. And this calls to mind Operation True Promise 1 and Operation True Promise 2, launched earlier by the Islamic Republic against Israel, targeting some military bases and air bases deep inside the Israeli territories. But this time around, Iran says has some surprises for Israel. And also, we've been hearing from different Iranian officials saying that the American bases in the region are also within reach as Iran blames not only Israel for this attack, but also it says that the Americans aided and assisted the Israelis in trying to launch that airstrike against Iranian soil. So for now, as I mentioned, the mood is all about war. Even the state television in the country removed that black mourning ribbon from the corner of its television, from the screen of its television, and replaced it with the Iranian flag, suggesting high morale. Like, let's forget about mourning and let's focus on how to take revenge. So, as I mentioned, and there's a sense of unity in the country. We've seen different, even some conflicting voices, political voices, uniting and calling on the Islamic Republic to try to take revenge.
Right, Mr. Jalili, you've spoken about a lot of points there coming out of Iran. You say that Iran is preparing launchers, if not thousands, but hundreds of launchers against Israel, which leads me to my second question. What kind of retaliation perhaps can we expect from Iran towards Israel? Like you also mentioned, that there is a growing chorus in Iran. Iranians do want a response to Israel's preemptive strikes, which happened earlier today.
Yeah, for now, we cannot really predict the type and the nature and the quality of that response right now, but based on earlier comments from the different Iranian senior officials, they pointed to a list of key targets inside Israel. If we remember, a couple of days ago, the Islamic Republic released the documents and the files it seized from Israel, and it calls it a big security and intelligence achievement for Iran, and a security and intelligence actually blow to Israel. So it released some pinpointed targets inside Israel, and including the Mona reactor, for example, or some military bases, and that Iran says that those targets and those points are within reach of its ballistic missiles. So we can actually say for safe, actually, that Iran is planning to target those sensitive sites, unlike its first and second operations, True Promise 1 and True Promise 2. True Promise 3 has been pending. Of course, we see that Israel launched a preemptive strike right now. Everybody was anticipating a True Promise 3, but now Iran seems to have been changing its calculations regarding True Promise 3, now adding more targets and more sensitive targets inside the Israeli territory, especially after it seized those files of those sensitive nuclear-related documents from Israel.
Mr. Jalili, if you compare the tensions between Iran and Israel, which happened last year, to what we're seeing today, what kind of a difference do you expect in Iran's response towards Israel? And also, do you think that this is an all-out war and there is no room of negotiation?
Well, it seems so, yes. It seems that it's moving towards spiraling actually out of control, because we see that unlike the first and the second response, this time the majority of the Iranian officials and different voices in Iran are talking about a war and are talking about a retaliation. Even some voices that are some sort of, we can say, against the establishment, perhaps we can call them. Those people are also right now urging the Islamic Republic to take revenge, because Israel claimed that it targeted only nuclear sites and targeted and assassinated nuclear and military officials. But it turned out that some civilians have also been on the list. Some civilians have been a collateral damage in this. And this has infuriated the Iranians. So right now, the entire country is screaming revenge. And this actually flips the script right now. It actually pushes the trajectory of Iranian response, the potential Iranian response towards a full-scale war, because we see that some European countries and even, for example, France announced its readiness to it took the side of Israel, saying that Israel has a right to defend itself. And also, we heard it from the American officials that while announcing that they don't have anything to do with this Israeli strike against Iran, but they said that they would protect Israel in case Iran launches a counterattack against Israel. So if we take into account an American involvement in any kind of a protection against an Iranian strike, so that means a full-scale war, not even between Israel and Iran, but between Iran, and of course, Iran is most likely going to launch some attacks against American bases inside the region. And those American bases are located in Arab countries, in the UAE, in Saudi Arabia. So this means a regional war, if not a world war.
Right, Mr. Jalili, I just wanted to seek your inputs on America's role and position at this point of time, with the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio clearly saying that America was not aware of this response of Israel strikes on Iran. How do you see America's position right now?
Well, usually Israelis coordinate any move in the region with the Americans. That's the plan and the rule and their policies. Actually, they have to coordinate with their American allies before launching any attack, perhaps against Iran or any other country in the region. But Iran does not buy that. Iran says that that attack and those strikes were coordinated, and the United States was in the know of the Israeli attack against Iran. So the Iranians are implicating the Americans in this attack, and they're finding them responsible for this Israeli strike. Now we see that the Americans are they're calling on Iran to exercise self-restraint, perhaps, and come to the negotiating table. But this is really improbable, given Iran is now in a war mood rather than a diplomatic mood. So any prospect for diplomacy between Iran and the United States, that sixth round, which was scheduled for this coming Sunday, is now out of the table.
Ms. Jalili, my last question to you. You speak of how Iran is in a war mode and is in no mood to talk right now. And we also spoke about how there's a growing sentiment in Iran to respond to Israel's preemptive strikes. What are the major repercussions of the growing tensions between Iran and Israel in the West Asia region as a whole?
Well, as I earlier mentioned, it's going to be tough for the entire region. It has some repercussions for the whole region, because we see that, first of all, any attack from Iran is most likely going to be associated with coordinated attacks, a multi-front attack against Israel by Iranian proxies in the region, like including the Houthis in Yemen. They're also most likely going to take part in a coordinated counterattack against Israel. If this is going to take place, those groups are going to pitch in and jump on the wagon to help Iran increase and overwhelm the Israeli air defenses against a flurry of rockets and missiles coming from different sides to maximize the impact and the damage on the Israeli air defenses, like the Iron Dome or other missile defense systems in Israel. So given the fact that those countries are going to take part, like Hashd al-Sha'bi in Iraq, most likely, or Hezbollah and the Houthis. So there's going to be a multi-front battle. So those countries are going to inevitably be involved in that attack. And as I mentioned earlier, the American bases in the region are situated in key countries, some of which are actually happen to be Iran allies, or like-minded with Iran ideologically, like Qatar, for example. So in Qatar, the Americans do have a base in the UAE, in Saudi Arabia. So all those countries cannot just turn a blind eye on this fact that Iran is going to perhaps launch attacks against American bases on their soil. So this would engage and affect the entire region, and that means a full-scale, full-fledged regional conflagration.
Right, Mr. Jalili, thanks very much for joining us here on WION, sharing your insights on the rising tensions between Iran and Israel.